But I like to make sure we get those guys in from time to time, guys and gals in from time to time. We can hear from them. That's whatever. Of course, we have John Sapochetti calling in right before the NFL. John calls in around 12:20 or so. We're going to talk. He'll give us his football picks for the weekend, which are for entertainment purposes only. Then we'll talk a little baseball, and a little bit of basketball. Celtics are on a nice run. And, it's the off season for baseball, but we will have, obviously there's trades and things going on there. Looks like we could have a nice Red Sox-Yankees rivalry building up again as they pick up some baseball bats as opposed to cricket bats, I guess. Some baseball bats for the fall. And when I say they, I mean the Yankees. They should have a huge lineup. Anyway, this story about the state senator, that's Howie Carr, who can be here 3 to 7 every day, Monday through Friday. Multiple choice Joyce, he calls him. Now living in Westport. He was quite a character. I read most of the indictment last night. Indictments, a lot of the stuff is boilerplate, and you've got to kind of plow through it if you've ever read federal indictments before. But I started, digging into that a little bit last night. I don't know that everything that he did was illegal, but he did a lot of things that were illegal. They're charging him with some things that I guess I didn't realize were a crime. One of the things they're saying is that he told people he wasn't getting paid for things he was getting paid for. They're alluding to making that in the documents. I didn't know that you had to tell people who weren't officially connected to you that you're being paid for something. That's a minor point. He was able to get he got a law passed, as I understand it. The acronym is PACE, not to be confused with the social service organization we have in this area that does so much good work helping poor people. PACE, not at all connected to that. As I say the word PACE, do not confuse it with the social service agency here in our area. It just happened to be the acronym for the law. It had to do with insurance and renewable energy and commitments by companies. He was able to get a law passed. His reign was from, I think, 17 years he was a state senator. I don't know for how long he was corrupt. Certainly, they're going back to 2011. So he spans multiple administrations, Republican and Democrat, here in Massachusetts. Certainly, if you go back to when he started in 98, I think that would have been Paul Cellucci. Again, not that the administrations were in cahoots with him by any stretch. There's nothing in the indictment that indicates that. But if you think about it, he was here for Cellucci and Jane Swift, but Romney, Deval Patrick, and now Baker. So you have to wonder what is in those. What did he do in the state Senate? What impact did he have? And doesn't it make sense to go back and do regardless of what the U.S. Attorney's Office does, but it would make sense for the administration, Baker's administration, to go back and maybe do into the other administrations, not just their own, and look to see what things he touched. What impact did he have on policy? He was getting commissions. They're calling them kickbacks and commissions on the sale of renewable energy here in Massachusetts. He also impacted the gas business, the natural gas business in Massachusetts as well, by getting some enforcement or lack of enforcement. Depends. Sometimes when you read these things, I'm not a bureaucrat. I'm not an attorney. You read the things, but I'm not sure how the policy played out. Does that make sense to you? In the indictment, you can find it online. I found it you can't find it through the U.S. Attorney's Office, or maybe you can. I couldn't. But I just put PDF Senator Joyce indictment, and I found it through, I think, masslive.com. but most of the newspapers have it. But I mean, he's had a serious impact. He was going out to all the little towns that he represented. So a Senate district. There's only 40 senators in Massachusetts. So if you have a big area like Boston, you just represent maybe just a couple of parts of Boston. But as you get down here, like Mark Montigny, he represents all the way from Dartmouth across to Mattapoisett. Mike Roderick's has got Westport, Fall River, Lakeville, places like that. So those districts are very big. Joyce had a big district. He's down in the Bridgewaters, in Easton. He was in Dedham. And he was going out and going to these town administrators. Now, they're saying he put pressure on these people. I don't know. Again, so I didn't get... It's 100 and something pages. I didn't get through the entire thing. I don't know what the pressure was. I could tell you this, though. One of the communities that he was attempting to get energy business into, he knew that the guy on the planning board is involved with a horse group. And these stables are located in the Blue Hills, and as I read it, they're state property. And they needed a rehab. They needed like $1 million in construction. So this Senator Joyce wait, what's $1 million between friends, right? When you're doing the state budget. He had his chief of staff add it to the emphasized list. This is really important to us. And they got him $1 million. And then later on, they have emails and things. Boy, Joyce is either really stupid or really stupid. He's smart in some ways, but stupid in other ways. Like, he emails everybody like crazy, including emails to, like, making the connection for the feds. They're just going to read the emails. But basically, he just says to his partner, his co-conspirator, although still yet charged, with this energy company, which is out of New York, that energy brokerage company, that, see, I told you this guy would come through. He indicated he knew what the guy wanted, got it for the guy, the $1 million for the horses. Now, whether or not that had any influence on the guy, I don't know. I don't know. This is Sunday Brunch. I'm Chris McCarthy. If you'd like to join us, you can at 508-996-0500. It is open phone, so if something's interesting to you, it's probably interesting to me. You folks have been patiently holding. Let's go to the phones. Good morning. Thanks for holding. You're live on WBSM.
Good morning, Mr. McCarthy. This is the, how can I put it? This is Steve Austin times 12.
The wrestler?
I'll give you a little report here because I've been doing some investigating on my own. And when everything breaks, I want to have a nice little sit down with your news department. They're going to get an exclusive. I have in front of me 12 sweepstakes winnings, 12 individuals with 12 phone numbers. They have all promised me a certified check for multi-millions, and they have also promised me, about 6 of them have promised me vehicles with the multi-million-dollar check. Well, I found out 2 days ago that it wasn't a certified check. I'm paying for a wire-to-wire service from one bank to my bank, which is why they charge. Well, I was originally told on the one that I looked into, I was originally told that it was going to be $500.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's a scam, right?
No. What the scam is that it is a wire to wire because I did pay $400, and I was told that this wire to wire service was going to take a couple hours, which it did. And then I got a call back saying that they couldn't complete the wire service because I had to have $1,000 total. So what I'm going to do is...
they give you $400 back?
I'm having the FBI wiretap my phone tomorrow.
All right.
I am calling all these people with all their certified checks.
Right.
And I'm also going to assemble a grand jury, and I'm taking them all to a federal grand jury, and I'm going to give a personal lawsuit because they have screwed up my life for the last 6 months.
Yeah, it's been an ongoing saga with you on this, right?
Yes, but like I said, what I found out was when I sent the 400 by these green dot scratch cards or whatever.
Yeah, prepaid debit card.
Well, I was called back, and they said I spoke.
Did they tell you to use that kind of card?
Yes.
Yeah, you know why, right? Because you can't get the money back, right?
No, but you see, the thing is, I have the cards, and the gentleman I spoke to, he said, first of all, he said to me, which I spoke, the gentleman I ended up speaking to was in charge of the he was like the manager of the sweepstakes, and he said to me that because I didn't have 1,000, they couldn't complete the wire transfer. So I said, well, what about the car? And of course, it was my understanding that they were going to send the car because they couldn't send the car over the wire. Certainly. So he said to me, well, you only sent 400 and you have the cards. He said, keep the cards in a safe place because when we come to deliver your car, you show us the cards and the receipts as proof that you sent us the cards. So I did that, but when he told me I needed another 600, that's when I decided to go to the FBI, have my phone tapped, and then I'm gonna get a federal grand jury together, and I'm gonna have a lawsuit against all these outfits, because I also found out that the wire-to-wire service on one of them is $399.32. So what they do is they charge you about $400 to $500 for the wire service, and they're supposed to reimburse you for that wire service. So those green scratch cards and everything, I'm keeping that all as evidence when I have my lawsuit. And when everything breaks, I'm going to give my good buddy, high school classmate Barry Richard, and Taylor Cormier all an exclusive for WBSM.
Hey, we appreciate that. Listen, thanks for the call. Folks, if you haven't been keeping up with this story, this has been going on for a while now. Gentleman called here a couple of months ago. I think I was wearing shorts when he called the first time. And then Phil spoke with him. I know he's called Jose Matos a couple times here on the radio. I've spoken to him. He stopped by the studio before. He stopped by the studio one day. I wasn't able to look at all his paperwork. Phil happened to be here. Phil did. It's you got to be very careful with these things. Very, very careful. It's very unfortunate. But yeah, I appreciate if the gentleman can give us an exclusive. That would be great. Let's go back to the phones. Good morning. Thanks for holding. You're live on WBSM.
Hey, Chris. Joe.
Hey, Joe. How are you?
Pretty good. I found Giancarlo Stanton under my Christmas tree. Well, I'll tell you, what I'm interested in? To see if they can move Ellsbury. That's the big thing. They're looking to get under that luxury cap thing, down to $197 million.
Right.
And between Ellsbury and Stanton, it's going to cost them about $49 million a year.
Hey, you imagine you're pitching against a game. You're pitching a game where you have Mike Judge and you have Stanton up there. Come on.
Oh, and Sanchez.
And Sanchez too, right?
Hey, did you see what Gregorius tweeted out?
No, tell me.
He says to Aaron Boone, "Hey Skip, am I still batting fourth?" Hey, what'd you think of the Gronk thing?
Look. I get it that he was frustrated. It was a stupid thing that he did, a dangerous thing that he did.
Oh, assault!
And
that's assault.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And he got he got lucky with a 1-day suspension. The one thing I couldn't figure out, Joe, and maybe you can help me with this, was does the union grieve everything? Is that sort of how they do it? That they grieve everything? Because if I was him, I would have taken my 1 day and just kept on going.
Well, two things made him look bad. As you know, since I stopped gambling, I don't watch a lot of football. But right. I looked at Grant as an extremely talented guy who is a big kid.
Oh, yeah.
You never hear anything mean-spirited or, he's had problems staying on the field.
Mm-hmm.
But, he was just a little guy. I could only take him in small doses.
Right. You wouldn't want him as your neighbor.
Anybody like that.
Right.
But he never came across as being mean or dirty.
Totally agree with you.
But in his apology, I don't want to hear about the way they're hitting you. Where do you expect them to tackle you?
Right.
They're not going to try and grab him around those, that 8-foot wingspan of shoulders that he has. I go back. I tell people, Mickey Mantle had a degenerative bone disease in his legs. Pitchers used to throw at his legs.
Yeah,
so
well,
it's
look,
the nature of the game.
The guy
I can't understand how they could give, even going back to Brady, they gave him 4 games because of the phone. They gave those 2 guys that fought a few weeks ago 4 games. And 1 game, and then this guy has the rocks to appeal the 1 game.
Yeah, I just can't tell if the union, if it's part of the way they operate that they appeal every suspension. Because
but here's the thing, and as a matter of fact, I'd mentioned before, I watched Michael Kay's radio show simulcast on the Yes Network,
right?
And he brought up an interesting point. Does the union represent the guy that got hit? He's a union brother, right?
Interesting. That's true.
That brought up, an interesting, isn't there a little contradiction there going on?
He doesn't know. And thanks for the call, Joe. The thing with Gronk is, everything Joe just said is true. I never saw this side of him before. I think the guy was playing him dirty. He got a bad call made. The guy was getting away with pulling on him and dragging on him. I get all that. But you can't then jump on the guy when he's on the ground. He could have seriously hurt the guy. Seriously hurt him. And then where would he be? It was not a good look for Gronk. Not a good look for him at all. And I just can't understand whether the union requires, whether it's an unwritten policy where they appeal every suspension. So no matter what, we're going to appeal it. That may be the case. He got off lucky with 1 day. Now he's going to lose. They suspect he's going to lose millions of dollars because he will not be able to hit the incentives in his contract by missing this 1 game. He has to play so many games, score so many points. There's all different incentives in his contract. He's got to perform to get paid the real money. So this stupidity that he pulled on the field where he jumped on the guy on the ground could likely result in him losing millions of dollars. Anyway, it's open phones. If you'd like to join us, you can. 508-996-0500. Thanks for holding. You're live on WBSM.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
A short while ago, you had someone on the line talking about he had won a couple of million.
Yes, so he believes he did. Now he's realizing it's not true.
It's a darn scam.
Yes, it's been around a while, too.
Are you kidding? I get them on the average of twice a year, more than that. Did he send any money in?
If I'm understanding it correctly, he sent at least $400 in so far.
Well, he can thank God it's just that,
Very, very. If you get anything like that, call the local police.
Yeah, the first time I got it last year, I went down to the police.
Yeah.
He didn't have to tell me because I knew already.
Right.
It's a darn scam. The
danger is, and I appreciate that he's calling in, is because hopefully people hear this and realize there's no such thing as there's nothing's free.
No.
If the lottery tickets and things like that, that's one thing. But the stuff that comes in the mail, no one's trying to give you money.
Yep. Well, poor man, I feel for him, but no, he knows better now.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for calling and holding. Yeah, folks, look, if you get something in the mail saying you won money, but you need to send them some money, you didn't win any money. And if you're unsure, go down to the police station. They're happy to help you out. I don't care what town you live in. They're happy to help you out. If you did, if you got it, it's a scam, give them a call anyway. Tell them, look, this is what's operating in the area. Then they'll know. They'll be able to tell people. But it's a very unfortunate thing. Thanks for holding her live at WBSM.
Yeah, I had to call you back because we were cut off.
Yeah, I cut you off. I was just getting to the end of it.
What? Because it wasn't the end.
All right, well, finish it up.
And I called you back because the owner of the sweepstakes company that I am dealing with, that I sent the $400 to,
Right.
is owned by Donald Trump. And now I was told.
All right, wait a second. Please don't put that out of the air, because let's face it, you've been deceived repeatedly here, right?
Well, I want you to know that I have.
Donald Trump doesn't own that company,
where
sir. I
I'm
guarantee
not being deceived is what I'm trying to point out.
Well, I don't know that you're not being deceived.
Well, like I said, when I have my wiretap put in tomorrow by the FBI.
Yeah, but Donald Trump doesn't own this company, sir.
He owns the Mega Millions lottery company.
Can't do it, man. Can't do it. Don't call me back telling me that Donald Trump owns the company that's ripping you off. Sir, you've been deceived repeatedly, and I feel bad, but I feel bad that you've been deceived, but don't tell me that Donald Trump owns the company that's ripping you off. Please. Okay. Folks, I'm excited to announce we have Newton Mayor Setti Warren here on the phone, giving us a call right now. The mayor of Newton, he's retiring from being the mayor. He didn't run for re-election. He's running for governor of Massachusetts on the Democrat party line. He's running for the Democrat nomination. We're going to bring him in, bring him on right now. Hey, thank you so much, Mayor Warren, for giving us a call. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, Chris. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Well, you guys are running. It's sort of the campaign hasn't getting the kind of attention they normally get, at least not so far. I suspect that'll heat up more as it gets colder. But we're really glad that you're so interested in New Bedford, and I think that New Bedford's a key component for your campaign, wouldn't you say?
I do, and it's a key component really for the Commonwealth. It's an incredibly important city in our state, and I believe that the people of New Bedford, the industry there, can really add to the vitality of our Commonwealth if we make the right investments. And Chris, one thing I did want to mention, I know we have two fishermen that are missing, Michael and Jonathan, recently. I just want to say a word of acknowledgement to their families. My thoughts and prayers, and our thoughts and prayers go out to them and their families in this difficult time. I know the fishing industry and occupation is a difficult one and can be dangerous, and I wanted to mention that.
Well, I know that we all very much appreciate that, Mayor Warren. It's a very tough business. Those guys, men and women involved in that business, know it, but they go out every day, and if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have the fresh seafood we have. But it's very sad, particularly this time of year, so I know the families, and I know my audience appreciates you saying that. Just want to cover a couple of things. I know you were here recently for a program to discuss adoption, what goes on with adopting children. That you did an event here in New Bedford. Geez, it may have been a couple of months ago now, truthfully, yeah. Mayor. But talk to us a little bit about what that means to you, children and adoptions.
Well, I did do a roundtable in New Bedford regarding children and the public advocates that work with those children and families that do not have homes, that live in group homes. The concern I have at this moment is that the program for those advocates is underfunded, and it's continually underfunded and has been. These are folks on the front lines ensuring that the safety and welfare, not just the legal aspect for the children and some of the parents, are protected, but that their livelihood and welfare are protected. And the concern I have, again, we've got a situation with this governor who continues to play games and gimmicks with the budget to keep it afloat. There are real results to those games and gimmicks. We have a structural deficit every year. We're not taking in enough revenue to pay for what we're doing now, and we're not transparent, and there are real live results for these games and gimmicks. Charlie Baker is playing with the budget to keep it afloat and not making sure that we are providing the funding for the public advocates for some of the most vulnerable children in our state. So that's why I wanted to come down, wanted to make sure I was there, so I heard firsthand from foster parents and also the advocates that protect children that do not have homes.
We're speaking with Newton Mayor Setti Warren, who's running for the governor of Massachusetts on the He's running for the Democrat nomination to then face ultimately Charlie Baker, we believe, on the Republican side. Although I think he's drawn an opponent now as well. Now, Mayor Warren, I'm holding a piece of paper in my hand here that you've interjected in giving your opinion on this Gatehouse Media takeover of the Boston Herald and what you think they're going to do with the unions. Can you talk a little bit about that? We have a lot of Gatehouse newspapers down here in this area.
Yeah, so my view on this is, we need to allow for the protection of workers' rights, the ability to negotiate their benefits. I called on Gatehouse News to do that for their employees. I think it's incredibly important at this moment when I believe the issue of our time is economic inequality for corporate entity that's come in to ensure that their employees have a level playing field. They're able to take care of themselves and their families. So I think it's incredibly important for Gatehouse News to listen to their employees and provide that platform for them.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. I think that we're a better state if we have a two newspaper, statewide organization.
No question.
Yeah, no question about that. So, Mayor Warren, for those people who don't know you, give us a thumb. You've been here with us before, but give people a thumbnail sketch of who you are, your military background, what you've done, and what you're hoping to do if you become governor.
Sure. Well, thank you, Chris, for that. There are three things that really drove me into this race, and I do have to do with my background. As you mentioned, I've been in the military 9 years. I enlisted a little bit after 9/11 because my dad was in the military, Korean War vet. My grandfather was a World War II vet, Battle of the Bulge. Second, I'm a mayor. Been mayor of my hometown, 11th largest city in the state, working for the 88,000 people in my hometown every single day. And third, my family. My dad and my husband. I've got two kids, 9 and 6. And I got into this race because of the issue of economic inequality in our state. People and communities are falling behind, and it's not right. We've got to make sure we're making investments that level the playing field. I had a real opportunity myself. My dad used his GI Bill benefits from the Korean War to purchase the home where I grew up here in Newton, grew up with my two sisters where I live today, with my wife and two children. And the idea that you can have that opportunity, like my dad did, who grew up in a poor neighborhood in New York, and ensure your kids or their kids can do better than they did, is not happening in our state today. And that's when I think about economic inequality and I think about this divide that's growing. This is why I got into the race. And we do not have a governor. We do not have state budgets that reflect the need, or policies, the need that is there in our state. And I've been to over 140 communities across the Commonwealth, and we've got to deal with the cost of health care and putting in place a system that is equitable, single payer, that's equitable and affordable. We've got to make sure we deal with housing and transportation. Chris, you and I have talked about South Coast Rail and the need for that, and housing as well. We've got to make sure we have an education system where people can attain the credentials they need to make ends meet in this economy. I've proposed free public college with internships and apprenticeships included. That's lifelong, so people can go back. And I also believe in creating higher-paying jobs where people live. One of the things I talked to Mayor Mitchell about is, growing the offshore wind industry and speeding that up so that we can ensure that we're giving people a chance to make a living in our state, particularly in New Bedford as well. There's real opportunity there. So that's why I got into the race, and I believe strongly that we can do better, that the status quo isn't enough. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you very much. We're speaking with Setti Warren, who's running. He's the mayor of Newton currently. He's running to be the governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, a Democrat. Mayor, talk to me a little bit about the opioid crisis and what you'd like to do, what you think you can do, maybe what they're not doing now. It's very, very important.
Well, I appreciate that question, Chris. One of the things that I saw in Newton as mayor in the last few years is a rise in overdoses around opioids. And then when I announced for governor, I started moving around the Commonwealth. I was hearing from people, every city and town I went to in Setting, there was not ever a time where someone didn't raise their hand and say, what are you going to do about the opioid crisis, because my friend, my neighbor, my family member is living with opioid addiction. And then I looked at the data, Chris, and it is astounding what I found. Since 2014, when Governor Patrick declared a state of emergency, Massachusetts was the first state that declared a state of emergency around opioid addiction. 6,000 people have died of opioid addiction. Every day in the state of Massachusetts, over 5 people die a day of opioid addiction. We have 250,000 people in our state that are living with opioid addiction. Setting aside the human cost of this, the state of Massachusetts is dealing with this crisis at a cost of $10 billion a year.
Amazing.
So I appreciate the efforts that have been made on Beacon Hill to provide Narcan to people and prevent, over prescribing some of these drugs, but it is not enough. The status quo is not enough. And I feel very strongly that we've got to shine a light on this. We've got to take the stigma away. This is why I started a series of conversations, town halls, and roundtables. I've been to the Cape. I had a town hall down in the Cape, just had a town hall in Springfield recently. I had a roundtable in Brockton and Amherst. And I'll be coming to New Bedford in January for the same purpose.
Okay.
We have got to provide additional resources to ensure that we're not only addressing prevention and education, but we're treating. We don't have enough, detox beds, and for the long term, we do not have community-based long-term treatment for people with wraparound services. It's got to be done. It is not something that we should be waiting for, and the governor is not doing enough. And I believe we have to address this, and it's important.
No, I really appreciate that. I've long thought that if you talk to anybody who's been through this, or usually you end up talking with family members, you point out, you don't really talk to the person because they're dead oftentimes, unfortunately.
Right.
There's really, unless you have a lot of money,
Yep.
Or you happen to be married to or have a parent and you're still under their health care who has a very good insurance, you have no ability to get treatment.
That's exactly true, Chris. Look, even those, and I'm listening to people, in all these settings, even those folks with wealth are telling me that there's just not enough treatment. There are waits to even get into short-term recovery and long-term recovery care. People are sending their loved ones out of state because even those with wealth. I mean, I'm talking to people who have the resources. So in addition to this economic injustice and inequality, the reason why I got in this race, to your point, think about it. If you don't have any resources, you can't send your loved one, to Florida or to different states that have availability. You're exactly right. Most average people do not have that here in the state. Everyday average people. This is a crisis, and we've got to shine a light on it. The status quo isn't enough. I was very concerned a few weeks ago when Governor Baker put out a press release stating that we had a decline of deaths, 10%, in the first 9 months of the year. Well, when you look under that statistic, what it really translates into, instead of 5.8 people dying a day, 5.4 people are dying a day.
God.
That's just cruel.
Right.
In addition to this, and there's no reason to point that as progress. The second piece of his press release, he talked about moving money around. He's on this panel, President Trump's opioid panel. President Trump declared a state of emergency but didn't provide the resources. And Charlie Baker's doing the same thing. He's talking about moving some dollars around from a federal Medicaid waiver to address a $10 billion crisis. It's just wrong. We have got to act, and we've got to act now, and we've got to provide the resources.
We're speaking with Setti Warren, who's currently the mayor of Newton. He's decided not to run again, but he's running for the governor of Massachusetts. Now, Mayor Warren, the policies are great, but you got to get there. if someone is interested in learning more about you, perhaps get involved in your campaign, do you have on hand your website, how they can reach you?
Yes. SettiWarren.com, SettiWarren.com. I'd love to earn the support of everyone that is listening. So please, dial in that website. And, one of the things, Chris, we'll let you know when the opioid town hall will be in January.
Thank you.
Look out for that on our website, and we'll provide that date to you. We don't have a date yet, but we will soon. But I would invite people to stay tuned. I'll be in the Bedford area well before then as well for other types of events. But that town hall is something that I'd really like to hear from people. And one of the reasons why I started that town hall, Chris, these conversations, was not just to shine a light on this and destigmatize, but also to hear what is happening in communities and hear the best ideas for solutions. One of the things that I'm learning along the way is that we do have people that have ideas on how to address this, and we can't leave any ideas off the table. We've got to, incorporate those. So one of the reasons why I'm doing this is I'm collecting information so that not only do we need to provide the resources, but we need some new innovative solutions that may not be present. It's not just about resources. So I really would invite people that are living with addiction and recovery, people that are clinicians, to join us in that conversation in New Bedford in January.
Hey, thank you very much. Again, we're speaking with Setti Warren. Now, you were down here a little while ago for the mayor's conference that John Mitchell hosted for the, I guess it's the National Mayor's Conference, where they crafted what's called the New Bedford Principles. It has a lot of things in it about environmental, clean energy, things of that nature, but also some stuff on the taxes, keeping local taxes deductible, income tax as well as property tax. I think also bonds were part of that as well, municipal bonds, which we've now seen is the opposite of what the Trump plan or the Republican plan in Congress is going to do. Any thoughts on that, Mayor?
Well, I think that this bill is so destructive that is moving around in Congress that President Trump supports. It's destructive for cities and towns. It's destructive for individuals. Even more, why at this moment we need to have a governor that is making the decisions that I'm talking about to protect our residents around health care, around transportation and housing, making investments, around leveling the playing field for people. There could be a real impact that we don't know about, but we know we don't know the extent of it, but we know it will be negative for our residents. So we cannot have a governor that embraces this idea that we shouldn't be making investments or cutting. Governor Baker has cut transportation in this state in the last year's budget. He's cut opioid addiction funding for Plymouth, treatment funding for Plymouth County. He's cut housing subsidies for affordability. This is not the direction we need to be going in at this moment. Not having a governor that is making cuts but making investments to level the playing field, particularly with this bill that is moving towards the president's desk.
Hey, thank you so much. I know I've kept you a little longer than I told Kevin I was going to keep you.
Not a problem.
But just one more time, Mayor, if you could give us your website for people who want to follow up.
Absolutely. SettiWarren.com. SETTI Warren WARREN.com.
You and your family have a wonderful holiday.
You too. Take care, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much. That was Newton Mayor Setti Warren, Democrat candidate for governor. He's running with Jay Gonzalez, who we've had on the show. He's running in that race as well. There's also another guy who's running, whose father, Massey is his name. Father is the author, Robert K. Massey. Written a lot of books on Russia. He's a Democrat. Why wouldn't he write books on Russia? Oh, I'm kidding. But no, we appreciate that the mayor took some time here on a Sunday morning to give us a call. And of course, naturally, I told him it would be a lot shorter than it was. But it's important stuff, folks. Important stuff. This governor's race. I don't like it when it's a fait accompli. The media is saying, look, I'm a Republican, but it doesn't matter. It's important that we have real debates on issues. As he was pointing out on the opioid crisis, and it's across the board, nobody has all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. For instance, I don't understand why we're not taking more law enforcement money and putting it into treatment. We've got to put the drug dealers in jail for a real long time. Take the addicts and put them in the hospital, perhaps for a real long time. I know we've got some civil rights issues there, but we've got to start addressing these problems. So that's interesting. Setti Warren will be having an opioid task force meeting here. Listen, that's like listening to the downline consumer, right? So, folks, stick around. We'll have more of that when that is announced in January. We'll get the date. We'll get that time for you, so that you can attend that if you've got some ideas and something to offer. We'll do this. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. I'm Chris McCarthy. This is Sunday Brunch. You can call it 508-996-0500.